Hi, welcome to week 7 of virtual school. I'm your teacher, Mr. Cohn. Today is day 48 of the coronavirus lockdown and my beard is back. Happy Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. Our quote from this week comes from the ancient Chinese philosopher Confucius. The man who thinks he can and the man who thinks he can't are both right. As we head into the last 2.5 weeks of school, please be someone who thinks they can. Get all of your work done in all of your classes and finish out this quarter strong. We are almost summer vacation. You will have 2 assignments this week that you'll need to complete. The first one is a Newsela reading about the Dark Ages. We are moving into our study of the Middle Ages, which is the time in Europe after the end of the Roman Empire. So remember, in 476 Common Era, Rome falls to the Germanic invaders. Remember, we have the rest in peace Western Roman Empire, long live the East, like we learned last week. Remember, the Eastern Empire lasted for about 1,000 years. So the whole time that we're learning about this week, the Eastern Roman Empire is still chugging along. They last all the way until 1453. But in Europe during this time, it's known as, quote-unquote, the Dark Ages, not because there was no sunlight, but because the, quote-unquote, light of learning in Western Rome had gone out. But as you'll see in this first reading, that's not entirely true. Catholic monks and priests actually wrote down and recorded a lot of the learning that went on during the Roman Empire and saved it for future generations. The reason why they're called the Dark Ages also is because there's a lot of war and conflict that was going on. Remember, the Roman Empire, when it was around, made things pretty peaceful for its people because of its strong armies, centralized government, and roads. Once the Western Roman Empire falls apart, all of this area becomes separate tribal kingdoms between competing warlords and their bands of strongmen. That does not make for a very peaceful environment to learn about stuff and create awesome buildings and good works of literature and great food. So during this time, it was difficult for a lot of people. And what eventually comes to play is that some strong warlords kind of consolidate power and become kings. They were pagans, which meant they worshipped kind of local gods and goddesses, but they realized that if they converted to Christianity, they could kind of gain some legitimacy. One of the people who does this is the guy on the cover of your textbook, whose name is Charlemagne, and he's going to become the king of the Franks, which becomes the modern country of France. Kings like Charlemagne used what was called the feudal system to maintain their power. You'll notice that this diagram looks very similar to the social hierarchy we drew with ancient Egypt. At the top you have the king, who's the boss of his territory, and beneath him you have the lords and the knights, who are like his local rulers who would rule each part of his kingdom, and the knights would be the warriors who are associated with the lord. Beneath the lord and the knights are the peasants' families, who are the farmers and the sheep herders. Now, the loyalty goes up the pyramid, so the peasants are loyal to their lord, who is loyal to the king. In exchange for their loyalty, they get protection from invaders and like the Vikings or the Mongols, because in this time, like, being invaded was a thing. It happened quite frequently. So the king protects the lords, who protects the peasants. In exchange, they give him their loyalty. So that's kind of the feudal system that we'll talk about this week goes there. Now, why would people go along with this? Why would you give your loyalty to the king? Well, the king has the power of God on his side. So by aligning themselves with the Catholic Church, the kings got the benefit of what's called the divine right, or the idea that God chooses the king, so if you are living in his kingdom, you have to obey him. And so remember, Christianity was the main religion of the Roman Empire, and after it went away, because of the invaders, the people who lived in Europe still kept their beliefs. The church did not get destroyed along with the Western Roman Empire. The Bishop of Rome was called the Pope, and the priests were all throughout Europe as well, and they maintained the church's teachings and spread Christianity throughout Europe as well. So, for this week, you have to read about the Dark Ages, and then there are some notes about the first half of the Middle Ages. So we'll learn about what happened after the fall of Rome until about 8 or 900, right about in the middle. We'll stop there with the development of the new kingdoms like France under Charlemagne. We'll also have the Holy Roman Empire, which will form in Germany and Italy. And we'll also have England, which will start to become a kingdom as well. So please complete both those assignments this week. If you have extra time, go back and get your missing work done. We only have 2 weeks left, 2.5 weeks left of school. So please make sure that all that stuff is getting turned in so you can be someone who can do their work this week. Happy Star Wars week, and I will talk to you later.